It's April 20th, 2020, an absolutely ordinary day with no other possible meaning. We're here to tell you what news has been happening in the board game world over the past week here on Roll for Crit.
Last year, it was announced that AEG was partnering with The Op to bring some of their franchises into the world of Smash Up, the shuffle-building, faction-based card game that we're fans of here at Roll for Crit. And we found out this month that it is going to be Marvel. They are releasing a standalone Marvel set of Smash Up for $34.99. It'll be released this fall, and it's going to include 8 unique factions, all based on characters from the Marvel Comics universe. The 2 that we know about so far are the Ultimates and Hydra, and they have said they will be revealing 2 new factions each month leading up to the game's release. Will, you recently did a whole rundown of all the Smash Up expansions that people can watch elsewhere on our channel. I'm curious, where do you think this Marvel set might fit in, and are you excited for it? Is this a property you think will work well in Smash Up?
I'm a little torn because the last time we had a big set based on another property was Munchkin, and that sort of just disappeared. Like, they didn't print it much anymore. Like, they didn't make special dividers for it. So I'm a little worried there. It could be one of those things that if you didn't get it, you missed out. But it is Marvel, so I can see them printing that up a lot. My question, though, for you, Jonathan, because you're the bigger Marvel zombie of us, who are the Ultimates?
The Ultimates, why, that's a reimagining of the Avengers. They're pretty close to the Avengers. It was done by Mark Miller, who is the guy who also did Kick-Ass and some other comic books and things. So they're sort of like a grittier version of the Avengers, if that makes sense, for lack of a better word. They're sort of more like on the ground kind of troops, a little bit different, but it is interesting that they have chosen that as one of these 8, and I wonder what the other 6 will be, because I would imagine one of them would be the Avengers, but I wonder how much there's overlap of that with Ultimates.
Well, my guess is...
Yeah, what are your guesses?
That we're going to get 50-50 villain-hero.
I think that's fair to say.
I would assume that there's got to be a Thanos group. It probably has all the stones and stuff, maybe his generals.
Mm-hmm.
After that, I'm going to guess there's a Spider-Man group. I'm hoping, but there probably won't be an X-Men group.
I mean, my guesses are, I think there's going to be a Spider-Verse. That's my guess as to what it's going to be. I think they're going to go full on all the Spider-Mans from every universe. I can't imagine there's not an X-Men group. I see where you're coming from, that, like, you know, that's been iffy with the movies and such and with Fox and Disney, but I just think, I don't know, 4 factions, in terms of like groups that make sense, how do you not do an X-Men in this set? I don't know. For villains, I think maybe, I was thinking Sinister Six, even though there's only, there's like 24 that have been rotating members of that group, so you could make that work somehow. But yeah, those are my assumptions are like, I feel like there's got to be even though I said Ultimates might have overlap, there's got to be an Avengers and an X-Men. I just think those are no-brainers.
Right. Mechanically, though, I know I'd be shocked if they made it in. Fantastic Four would be like a great group, because there have been a lot of single, like, cards that only have single copies with 4 power in Smash Up. So mechanically they'd fit well, but I think popularity, they just can't beat out the other groups.
I was also thinking, I feel like this is the first Smash Up set that's had really specific named characters, and I wonder if they'll approach it any differently, in the sense of, like, does it make less sense to have 2 different Spider-Man minions than to have 2 different robot minions? You know what I mean?
There are multiple Smash Up sets that have only unique cards.
Okay, but that makes me think, like, how many characters are there that they can stretch that out? So, like, Fantastic Four might be out just because they don't want to have more than 4 of those main guys. You know what I mean?
I know that the superheroes, with the exception of, I think it's called Ordinary Citizen, the princesses, I forget what they're called from the 70s expansion, Vigilantes. I think there's one more I'm forgetting about, but have each character or minion, that's the word they call them characters in this one, is unique. Like, no other card has that name. And they sort of play around that you have to search your deck for them. I tend to not like them usually that much because of that. So we'll see how these work. I actually think I might like the villains more, because it'll make more sense for the Hydra group, for example, to have Hydra soldiers.
Right. You could have like Spider-Man has spider bots or something like that.
Right. I mean,
There's things you can do. Well, we'll see how it all shakes out. We'll see what the rest of the factions look like in the coming months, and then we'll find out how well this integrates into the rest of the system when it comes out this fall.
Fantasy Flight has released the information for the Investigator starter decks for Arkham Horror, the card game. These are decks for each class in the game, which will include a Investigator, some of them old returning ones from previous Arkham Files games, some of them new to the series. As I stated before, each deck revolves around one of the classes you can build for the Arkham card game, but this also allows you to buy a deck and play it right out of the box. No need for a core. You can jump into whatever scenario you decide to play with. I am excited to see a lot of these people, especially a lot of fresh faces and new investigators. A couple old ones too, which is nice. In particular, I think I'm most interested in the Sentinel deck, based around Nathan Cho, who is a boxer and it looks like has a lot of really cool cards, as well as the Survivor deck, based on Stella Clark, who's a postal worker. And if I've learned anything from Fallout New Vegas, you don't want to mess with postal workers.
I'm learning that right now in real life too. It can be frightening out there. Yeah, I think this is a really great idea. I love. It feels to me like they're following along the same path that they had a little bit with Marvel Champions and even Keyforge, where like you can just pick up a deck and start playing with it, and the fact that you can also use these in any of the different scenarios and adds a little more maybe possible replay value if you've done a scenario before. Now you have a whole new set of investigators, right, that you can try it out with, or more options if you really like a specific class too. Then you can try out one of these newcomers to the field. So I think it's cool.
What's really nice to me is Arkham was one of the LCGs that fell under the issue where you wanted multiple cores if you want a full playlist to play these decks. This way, you can get the cores, and let's say someone else is interested in playing, they can buy a small pack. It's a lot easier for Fantasy Flight to stock these than core sets.
Yes,
which means it lowers the entry for new Arkham players, the bar of entry. And of course, seeing new investigators is always great. That also means pretty much here's new content going to be coming to our other games. So it's a win-win for anyone who enjoys any of the Arkham Files lines.
Yeah, shout out to Pacey, fan of the show, who emailed us and suggested we talk about this story, and he is going to be buying it as well. He noted that he is well addicted to the Arkham card game and the Lord of the Rings LCG, so if you ever have a suggestion for a story, you can always email us.
Now, these are slated to be released according to Fantasy Flight by the third quarter of 2020, but as we'll talk about a little bit later in the show, many of the things under the Asmodee umbrella may be pushed a little.
Level 99 Games has announced a new title called Bullet. This is a game inspired by video games, in particular top-down or side-scrolling action shooter games. They reference Ikaruga, among others. You'll be playing as one of 8 heroines traveling through the sky, through space, with various magical special powers that you'll be using to take on enemies. This game has 4 different modes. There's a competitive mode, a co-op mode, a solo mode, and a team battle mode, so you can play this for 1 to 4 players. The game is scheduled to launch on Kickstarter this summer, and they're going to have more information leading up to that launch, but we haven't seen too many of the nitty-gritty details about the gameplay itself. But Level 99 has a pretty great track record, and I thought this was worth taking a look at just because I don't think there are too many board games that try to simulate that. What this seems to me is kind of like the bullet hell style of video game. We've seen some that try to imitate like the arcade style shooters like Galaga type of thing.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking like that. We've seen some scrolling. Right. Usually those don't have the bullet hell aspect where you're terrified of every single little piece on the board.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that this brings some more of that style of action to it. And I really do love all the different modes. The fact that it has a solo mode, then there's different bosses that you can fight against. That's always appreciated. So I'm looking forward to seeing some more of this. I think my only concern right now, my hesitation, is that I feel like this one might be a little polarizing just from the art style. It's like very anime, very kind of like magical girl type of thing.
I mean, this is Level 99. They tend to lean towards more the anime art style.
That is true. You kind of know what you're getting into, but I don't think for me, it doesn't look like super egregious or anything. So I'm interested to find out exactly how it plays as the year continues.
And now an update on the wave of chaos that's not only affecting the board game world, but the entire general world itself. The Alliance Distribution Company, as well as its parent company, Diamond, is closing for now. They are not shipping out any new products after the April 1st date. They are hoping to open to mid or late May, possibly. Of course, we've seen that a lot of these things could shift depending on what's happening. This, in turn, though, includes Asmodee increasing the deadline of no new products being shipped out until May. They will say that directly they may ship out stuff that they're on backlog for, but don't expect any new products that fall under the Asmodee umbrella, like Fantasy Flight that I said before, until after May at the earliest. Cryptozoic recently held their little online convention where they talked about some of their new products, including some figures, trading cards, as well as board games, in particular a new addition to the Epic Spell Wars line and the DC deck building game based on the Dark Metal series. But on some bad news in conventions, one of the biggest ones has announced it will not be open this year. San Diego ComicCon, one of the biggest conventions ever, for the first time in 50 years, is going to be closed. Unfortunately, California has decided that this isn't a time to have large group gatherings, even late into the summer. If you do have a ticket, they will say you will be able to either get a refund or get a ticket for 2021. This is a pretty big deal. Like, in terms of nerdy conventions, this is the convention.
Yeah, Comic-Con, certainly not a board game specific convention, but it's gotten big enough and board games have gotten big enough that you're going to find some board game stuff there when you go.
Oh yeah, there's always a big Magic promo. If you look on our set, the ones behind Jonathan, I had to think for a second, that have a Transformer one.
Not on the set we're on now, on
no.
our regular set.
Yes, on our normal set. You'll have to go way back to the before times. But that's a Magic promo from San Diego Comic-Con.
Right. So that's a huge deal. That affects a lot of people and a lot of things going on over there. And certainly probably was something to look at as maybe kind of a canary in the coal mine for other conventions. You know, I feel like that's the big one of the year.
It is, but it should be pointing out that, just like I'm sure New York Comic-Con probably is going to be worried about this, but both those are in much denser, heavy populated states. You know, if you're in a smaller area and not in California or the tri-state area, maybe you'll be able to if you're put a much later summer. But once again, this is a very scary sign.
Yeah, we will see. I myself, as people who've been watching know, I'm not at all optimistic about the state of conventions for the rest of the year. And we'll see about the resuming also distribution for new products from Asmodee and other companies. Hopefully that is something they can work out a little easier, at least by maybe having a smaller staff at the warehouses, but like some kind of a smaller way to make things go forward that way. To round off the show, there are a few new board games coming out that we thought you might be interested in. Dominion Menagerie is the latest expansion for Dominion. It includes brand new cards themed around animals. Now you can play with horses and other critters of the animal kingdom with all new sets of abilities. King of Tokyo has its new Dark Edition available now. This is the same gameplay as the original base game, with some tweaks and updates and a brand new art style that is very slick and, as the title would imply, looks dark. Legendary has its new release this week, The New Mutants, based on the New Mutants, who are they're like little X-Men, essentially. This has a new set, including Magic and Wolfsbane and Karma are in there, all your favorites, and some new mechanics centering around day and night, or moonlight and sunlight, I think they call it. And then there's also a new pack for the Versus Marvel card game, the Marvel Webheads Volume 3, Issue 3, which has some new Spider-Man characters from all over the Spider-Verse for you to play with.
So that Legendary set sounds pretty interesting, though the light and dark mechanic, I gotta say, that's not actually new. I think Buffy had something similar, and I know Deadpool, one of the cards from its little expansion pack, actually referred to what time it was during the day.
Yeah, interesting stuff. It definitely reminded me of the Buffy Legendary. This one works very differently, though. It's not a tracker. It's based on the odd and even numbers that are currently showing in your HQ card lineup. So interesting. When you're 20 expansions deep, you got to come up with some new ideas.
Let's also not forget there's some digital releases, too. We got an Agricola Revised Edition coming to the digital platforms, as well as Keyforge Mass Mutation is going to be a print and play, which you can technically get through your browser. So we're counting as digital.
Yeah, that's right. So some ways to keep yourselves entertained at home if you're not able to get any of these physical releases that are worth taking a look at. Let us know in the comments if you're getting any of these this week, or which of these news stories you have thoughts and opinions on. What do you think? I'm specifically interested really in your thoughts on the Marvel Smash Up, what you'd like to see in that. And for those investigators, which of those Arkham Horror investigators are you looking to pick up? Do you like that
and of
Sentinel?
course, were you going to ComicCon? Let us know if you've got up to how you're updated, what are you deciding to do, if you're going to go for the refund or not, or trying something else. We'll see what happens with that. I'm really curious with all these updates with the conventions in particular, because they're usually not only for businesses, but a great way for a lot of people to just meet with other fans of their hobbies. So losing this time really hurts.
Yeah, let us know what's going on with you guys. As always, we're getting through this. Keep staying safe. Keep playing games if you can. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Will.
And this is Roll for Crit.
We would love it if you liked and subscribed to this channel and supported us on Patreon as well.
If you choose to support us, turn to page 25.